Hi, everybody. Hello, hello. Were you able to see that headline? War grinds on in Ukraine with no end in sight. Struggle, slaughter, and a global food crisis. I'm wondering if Vladimir Putin. I'm wondering if Vladimir Putin is going to win a war of attrition. Hey, let me switch my lighting. Sit here 1 second. I'll go with the TV lighting. After all, I'm in a TV studio. I'll get back to this in a moment because that's the survey question of the day today at Smerconish.com and in the newsletter. Is Putin really winning this thing, and in a way that many of us are not realizing? But first, I want to just say something about being back in my natural environment here in Philadelphia today. It occurs to me that 1 week ago at precisely this time, I was doing a YouTube live from the rooftop of the Bristol Hotel in Warsaw, Poland. I was amidst this spectacular setting, and so far things were going well. I had no idea of the technical issues that were about to unfold because I was on this rooftop balcony, and I was speaking to all of you holding my iPhone and trying to give you a feel for the 360. And there were technical people, a local crew in front of me who seemed like they had it all going on. They were awfully nice people. I don't mean to disparage them in any sense, but no sooner, oh, and also it was windy where I was standing, but it seemed okay. It seemed, doable. And then no sooner did I end the YouTube live and typically get a little bit of makeup applied and then begin a rehearsal 1 hour ahead of my CNN program. Instead of beginning what would be 8 a.m. Philly time, it was now 8:05, and it was 8:10, and it was 8:15, and by 8:20, I'm starting to get panicked because I'm in position on the set, and by now the wind is howling. And oddly, even though it was like 52 degrees, for me, in the midst of the wind, it was teeth chattering, bone chilling cold. I know that sounds wacky. So I am freezing my fanny off, and it's obvious that they can't make the program work from a technical standpoint. And now I have the United States ambassador to Poland, Mark Brzezinski, who has arrived and is close to me, except he's inside. And I'm thinking, this could have a bad ending. One of the local Polish crew now comes up to me with his iPhone and takes my microphone and plugs my microphone into his iPhone and dials a connection, which is back to CNN, either in Atlanta or in New York. And I'm thinking, this is nuts. Like, this is nuts. CNN International, and I'm going to be mic'd through my iPhone. So hold on, because you haven't heard the best of all. So then what becomes obvious when the microphone is connected to the iPhone, the microphone's connected to the iPhone. Now we decide we can rehearse. So it's probably now 20 minutes of 9. I'm freezing. The ambassador's pacing, right? I think he knows there's an issue now. And we go to rehearse, and there's a 20 or so second delay. At least that's how it felt on the teleprompter. So the full scripts have been written. They've been entered into the system. Good morning. I'm Michael Smerconish. I'm in Warsaw, Poland. Here's the update on the war. But there was no way I could have used any of it because I'm looking at a TV screen. It's scrolling along in a disjointed fashion, 20 seconds behind where it needs to be. Now, here was the alternative. The alternative was that me speaking to the control room back in Atlanta, that I could have said to them, just fire that baby up and I'll try and keep up. In other words, let the teleprompter get ahead of me and then see if I can keep pace. But that was too risky. So in the end, Catherine is my very accommodating executive producer. She's back in New York. And I said to her, let's just blow out the prompter and I will wing it. She said to me, you ought to be able to handle it. You're a radio person. So that's what we did. me speaking through the iPhone, no teleprompter, the ambassador sitting there, and I'm freezing my ass off. So I was really concerned with how it looked. And then, and then further into the program, because I was struggling trying to do Ukraine, Poland, and also Uvalde had just happened. So I've got to also do Uvalde. So we did 2 blocks on Uvalde, 2 blocks on Poland. And when we tried to make connection with one of my guests for Uvalde, she was excellent, by the way. She was Dr. Peterson was then on radio with me on Tuesday. We lost the connection. So we had a gap to fill. And the person who had been the facilitator of my trip, John Lynch, sort of my Sherpa, arranged guests, was wonderful. He was right there on the stage, although I think he was in a parka. I'm not sure. And we just, like, John, come on over. And he sat down and he was fabulous in talking about Poland and the Polish response to Ukraine. So point is, I was really concerned. I was really concerned when I got home and the dust settled. I wanted to go back and take a look. And I was very pleasantly surprised. Like, the one thing that ran through my mind as I was doing that show, no one watching will know anything about the teleprompter, will know anything about how cold it is, and will not know that I'm speaking through a Polish iPhone to get on TV. It was one of the most challenging broadcasts that I've ever done. It was also one of the most rewarding trips that I've ever done because not only was I there to shine a light on Poland, but I was, fingers crossed, and I didn't talk about it in advance because I didn't know how it was going to pan out. But I was hoping that on my final day, I could go into a remote area of Poland and explore my roots. And that's exactly what I did. So everything worked out. And now, as a screensaver on my phone, there is that photograph. That photograph is taken in a cemetery in southeast Poland where ancestors of mine are buried. It's too much for me to condense right now, and I want to tell you a little bit about today's program. But please, 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 in fact, now while you're here, in between this and the CNN program, on YouTube, watch the video that I posted of me walking through this cemetery that was the village where the Smerconiches left and came to the United States. I encourage everybody to get in touch with your roots. You might not have the sort of Hollywood ending that I did because, honest to God, what happened to me last Sunday is straight out of an Ancestry.com special. Really amazing. I mean, I walked where my great-grandfather walked when, at an early age, he left this poor village. I know it's sort of the classic American story, and began a journey to the United States. And when I walked out of the village and I'm walking down this dirt road, I'm thinking to myself, Elko Smerconish in the 1890s, presumably in his late teens, walked down this dirt road and never came back. It's amazing stuff. Okay, so we think that the war in Ukraine has been going well, right? Like, we're funding it. We're providing all the military support. Putin is on the run. At least he tried to take Kyiv and he couldn't. So now he's in those easternmost regions. What if that's all he wanted to begin with? And what if he's going to wear us down? Because in the end, Americans are more concerned about gas prices and Europeans are more concerned about food access than we are what happens in Ukraine. It's on my mind for a couple of different reasons. I was reading a piece by Tatiana Stanovaya, a non-resident scholar at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace in Foreign Policy magazine, where she tries to debunk myths that the West holds about what's going on in Ukraine. For example, assumption number one, Putin knows he's losing. Putin's main goals, she writes, in this war have never been to acquire pieces of territory. Rather, he wants to destroy Ukraine in what he calls anti-Russia project and stop the West from using Ukrainian territory as a bridgehead for anti-Russian geopolitical activities. He maybe dreamt of taking Kyiv. He maybe dreamt of taking all of Ukraine, but that was really never the objective. And then the key line, he likely believes he's winning, and he is happy to wait until Ukraine concedes that Russia is here forever. Then I juxtapose that with a piece that will be posted at Smerconish.com and in today's newsletter from MSN. Pardon me for a moment. Yeah. Washington Post as well. Putin thinks West will blink first in war of attrition. Putin believes the West will become exhausted, said one well-connected Russian billionaire, speaking on the condition of anonymity for fear of retribution. Putin had not expected the West's initially strong but united response, but now he is trying to reshape the situation, and he believes that in the longer term, he will win. He thinks that Western leaders are vulnerable to election cycles and believes the public opinion can flip in one day. I had a story posted at Smerconish.com yesterday from The Hill talking about how there's concern now in the Senate, both from the right in Rand Paul and from the left in Elizabeth Warren, in believing that there's not a proper accounting. I don't mean to suggest that there's anything nefarious, but that they haven't been able to keep up. The Pentagon hasn't been able to keep up and track all the money. It's like a fire hose that we are throwing at Ukraine. And you know that recently $40 billion has been appropriated. And the article in The Hill suggests that the tolerance level among elected, it was 11 Republican senators who voted against that. What am I saying? I'm saying I don't know that the administration is going to be able to easily go back to the well and get the sort of funding for Ukraine. I hear more of a drumbeat of people saying, why are we giving all this money to Ukraine when we have all these problems at home? And what really will bring it home is how much we're paying at the pump with record gas prices across the country. Speaking of which, and taking me into a different issue that is of interest to me, then you've got the president who, as a candidate, said that Saudi Arabia, he was going to turn into a pariah. Now, and this is interesting because it seems like there was an about face and maybe another about face. The White House is not confirming that President Biden is going to meet with MBS. Mohammed bin Salman, who's believed by U.S. intel to be responsible for the murder of Jamal Khashoggi. So, if American gas prices weren't where they are, do you think President Biden would be contemplating going to Saudi Arabia? No way. So I see the two stories together. I see the two stories linked in terms of concern about where we are domestically and our short attention spans. I think more Americans are knowledgeable about Amber Heard and Johnny Depp than they are about Ukraine. By the way, nothing wrong with being into Depp and Heard. I am, but I'm also paying attention in Ukraine. So in the end, are we going to say, hey, we're really rooting for Zelensky and rooting for Ukraine against Russia, but how much am I paying at the pump? And can I still buy my kid the G.I. Joe with the Kung Fu grip? Movie reference. Anybody get it? Anybody get it? So I'll also talk about whether the president should go to Saudi Arabia. Terry Strada, who is a guest of mine on radio and is great, a 9/11 widow, very active among the victims of September 11. She's not of a mindset that the president, I'm a double negative. She's okay with him going. But she's only okay with him going if, when he gets there, the first thing out of his mouth is to talk about September 11. Will Biden do that? I don't know. Two other things that are of interest to me that I think are great elements for the show today. Elon Musk continues to make lots of news. Elon Musk is, of course, a trendsetter when it comes to electric vehicles. Will he be a trendsetter with regard to return to the workplace? Because Musk has served notice for SpaceX and Tesla employees, back to the office, 40 hours in the office, or you're fired. Will others follow suit? Will he be able to maintain, the smart techies that he needs in both of those businesses. At Twitter, they've said you never have to come back. At Airbnb, they've said you never have to come back. So if I'm some hotshot millennial and I could work at any of the above, am I really going to choose to go work for Tesla where I've got to be in the office, or instead am I going to go work at Airbnb? So that interests me. And then finally, I'm going to talk about Top Gun Maverick. And I'm going to do so from the Top Gun Maverick has taken people back into the movie theaters. That's a good thing. Americans are flocking back to the theater. Bear with me. I've got to grab a note here. There's a fellow who's an academic, and he made a documentary film of his own named Roger Stahl. And he wrote this piece for the LA Times that caught my eye. Why does the Pentagon give a helping hand to films like Top Gun? He was able, through Freedom of Information Act requests, to get 30,000 documents from the Department of Defense, the DOD, showing the relationship between the DOD and Hollywood. And the picture that emerges, one of my favorite expressions, is that they're all in cahoots. So long as the military likes the message, so long as the military thinks this will be good for recruitment, they like Top Gun, they like Tom Cruise, although not in Born on the 4th of July. And there's just really interesting dynamic between the two. If you submit a script, and it's not just movies, it's TV shows as well. You submit a script, and they get input, or you don't get access to the hardware, which I think poses a First Amendment right. I'm like, if I'm Oliver Stone and I want to do, or if I'm Francis Ford Coppola and I want to do Apocalypse Now, or I'm Jerry Bruckheimer and I want to do Top Gun, and we both want cooperation, should it depend upon the tone and tenor of the script? So Roger Stahl will be my guest, and we shall talk about that. As you can tell, a lot of things on my mind. I'm very appreciative of those of you who are watching the YouTube videos and also subscribing to the Smerconish.com daily newsletter. Little secret, we are hard at work behind the scenes on the website itself and planning something really big and really special by the end of summer. It's a massive project. But just because there's such interest now in the Smerconish.com daily newsletter, so please continue to turn your friends onto it. We really are working hard to deliver balance daily. Give TC some play on TC After Dark. You saw that I gave her a tomato and a pepper plant yesterday. Do you think she'll kill them? Or do you think they'll grow? We'll find out in August, because I'm going to demand that she document what occurs. All right. Thank you, everybody. I'm going to go get ready for the CNN program. I don't expect to be cold. I do expect to have teleprompter, and I plan on using a legitimate microphone and not a Polish gentleman's iPhone with a microphone attached to it. And if I have those three things, it'll be a great show. See ya.